Iran needs time to recuperate, to
Yeah.
rebuild. This is what Israel is doing also, by the way. So the ceasefire is really a
It
pause.
wasn't about ceasefire. It was about
it
was about regrouping.
Exactly. It's a
For
pause.
Israelis.
So the both sides can regroup for round two. And for Iran, this is why, they did two things. First, they sent their foreign minister to Russia because they probably right now want the fast track on some of the weapon deliveries. Because before this, Iran had ordered air defense system S-300, S-400 from Russia. They also ordered a batch of Su-35 jet fighters from Russia, but
they never got those ones. They didn't get those ones, Carl.
They haven't been delivered, and this is the reason the Iranian airspace was wide open for Israelis, because they don't have the air force, they don't have the air defense system, and so for whatever reasons they're not delivered. It may be just because Russia right now is so focused on Ukraine, and their military industrial complex is geared towards the Ukraine conflict right now. It might be a production bottleneck. It might be there might be some deal that's being worked out. I don't know. Like some people say, maybe this is why exchange for the West only sent the second-hand F-16s to Ukraine. For whatever reason, there was held up of the air defense system and air force and plane delivery to Iran. Then following that, Iranian defense minister made his first trip to China to attend the Shanghai Cooperation Organization meeting. And that is important because there's now many widespread talks of Iran is in talks with China to acquire J10c fighter jets and Chinese defense systems. Because especially after witness the aftermath of the Pakistani-Indian conflict.
That is correct.
Placed recent, it really kind of show how Chinese weapons can be cost effective, because those J10Cs, they only cost like 40 to 50 million a piece. It's the cheapest in its category, but they will, with the not J10C, Iran can deal with Israel's F-16 effectively. And
if they were able, if the Pakistanis were able to shut down the Rafales, which Rafales for France considered one of the top in the world, and the Chinese missiles were just zoomed at it, I make more sense for the Iranians to go ahead. And I'm not saying they should forgo about Russia, but you have a more affordable weapon from China, more technical advanced and reliable weapon you can count on.
Well, they already pay for their Su-35. Russia just need to deliver them. They're still waiting on the delivery. They already pay for the Su-35. Their pilots have been trained on the Su-35, so they're literally just waiting for delivery. So I think right now they're probably working with Russia to try to help, help fast track those delivery of those systems. And but Russia's, their supplying of Iran, they also is tempered by their consideration of the Russia relationship with Israel and the United States, right? Whereas China, there's less inhibition on China's parts, because people were saying, well, if China supplies, wouldn't they have to consider the diplomatic fall of supplying weapons to Iran? What about China's relationship with Israel and United States? Well, first, let's talk about United States. What relationship? The U.S. is still supplying arms to Taiwan. So there's no reason for China not to supply Iran, as long as United States keep on supplying weapons with Taiwan. U.S. just finally deliver some F-16s to Taiwan, which the Taiwan has paid like a decade ago. They just finally deliver, and again, U.S. has a production issue. They have a production. Like I said, U.S. can print money as much as they want, but they cannot print fighter jets, ships, and missiles. The U.S. economy has been so financialized, but when you want to fight a kinetic war, what you actually need is still industrial capacity, which U.S. simply don't have anymore.
Don't have that.
And when it comes to China's relationship with Israel, so back in the 1980s and 1990s, Israel was a vector through which China could access Western military technology. Because Israel, they have full access to U.S. military technology. So Israel was a backdoor for China to get their hands on those U.S. military technology. But back in around 2000, U.S. put a stop to that, which kind of goes to show maybe we can't really say Israel control United States, because on the thing that really matters to U.S. can actually put its foot down and tell Israel, no, you cannot sell weapons to China anymore, and you stop. So from 2000 to 2010 onward, that door has been closed. So China no longer needs Israel to get hands on Western tech. And by the way, and so Israel needs China far more than China needs Israel. So that's not even that's not even a factor. The only factor China may need to consider is to balancing out the GCC, the other Arab countries, because Saudis, it might have concern. But again, that's not really a big concern, because China can offer the same defense package to the Saudi as well. I mean, Saudi is more than welcome to buy J10c for themselves, and there's actually talks of some Arab countries, some Middle Eastern country, not Pakistan, that's also in talks with China to acquire J35 as they became in production.
Yeah.
And so that I'm guessing could be anyone, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and this is
actually is Egypt, Carl, is Egypt. Egypt already requested. Egypt, to my knowledge, the Saudis sort of refrained from that, even though there were talks. I remember when I was in Saudi Arabia, I came across back then an information that was like alarming at the time. Why the Saudis are talking to the Chinese for that? So I will see it more with the Egyptians than I'll see it with the Saudis at this moment. So things could change, of course.
That makes sense, because Chinese Air Force recently was in Egypt doing a joint drill with the Egyptian Air Force. They flew over the pyramids. I saw the videos. It was quite impressive. So Egypt is thinking about they're looking at J10c and J35. So that's something that Iran also need to think about, because with the J10c, they can counter the Israeli F-16s. With J35, they will be able to deal with the Israeli F-35.
35s, that's correct.
Can you imagine the copium if a J-35 shot down an F-35? That will be, that will be the day. I look forward to the day when the Iranian J-35 shoot down an Israeli F-35. That will be the.
You know what, Carl? When this conflict started, and I shared it with the community, I told them that, mark my word on this, if this to keep going on this trajectory, this will be the final nail on the coffin for the U.S. and Israeli partnership in the region. In other words, the Middle East or West Asia will never be the same, because Iran is going to respond, and Iran's responding is going to change the equation. And at that time, everybody's saying, no, the Israelis will wipe out the Iranians. I said, no, you guys don't realize what Iran is doing. Iran is not playing all its cards. This is why the Israelis have been asking for a halt, because they were nervous. And you are right when you said earlier about the economic devastation. This morning, I got a confirmation that so far its economy has lost about $5 billion. This is for the Israeli part. So it became clear as to where things are going.
And Iran has been very restrained. They carry out a very calibrated measure campaign. Look, they could have done so much work. If they really want to hit the they're actually very careful not to hit the jugular of Israel, because they know if they do something that will collapse, if the Israel's imminent collapse is visible, then Washington for sure will enter the war decisively on the side of Israel, because U.S. simply will not allow Israel to collapse. So Iran, you really want to collapse Israel, they could hit the Israeli desalination plant, because 80 to 90% of Israel's water come from a handful of desalination plants. Israel can just Iran can just send their missiles that way. No water. That Israel will not be able to function after a week without water, and they refrain from hitting Israeli nuclear power plant, right? I mean, like they're perfectly within their capability to do so, because people will say, "Oh, hitting civilian infrastructure, that's a war crime." Well, guess what? Israel has been doing for the whole year, and this is actually NATO playbook. When they bombed Serbia back during the Kosovo War, they bombed the civilian power plants, water plants, bridges, radio tower, television station,
and the Chinese embassy.
and the Chinese embassy. So Iran, if they did that, there's Israel would expect no sympathy from the war, right? I mean, if anything, people will be cheering. But Iran refrained from doing that, because they know if they hit the nuclear power plant, if they hit the water desalination plant, that would definitely trigger a very strong U.S. response, because U.S. would not allow Israel to collapse. So Iran did is they are punishing Israel by making it suffer a lot of pain, but not to the point where it will cause imminent Israeli collapse. So that's whereas Iran, simply because a larger country is more spread out, more population, it can take a much more blows than Israel could. So right now, Iran, it also exposed a couple of weaknesses in Iran's defense, which is their air defense and their air force. I imagine that right now it's their top priority to rebuild those capabilities, before the next round. And for Israel's side, right now, I bet they're scrambling to replenish their missile interceptors because they're running dangerously low. And I don't know how that's going to be resolved, because they depend on United States. And let's face it, U.S. still have their own resource constraint. They need to figure out how they're going to get enough critical minerals to make those missiles.
Liking this video so far? Don't just be a watcher. Go ahead and hit the like, share, and subscribe button. And don't forget to tap the bell.
Hello, my friends. I'm Carl Zha, and you're watching Silk and Steel Podcast. Leave your comments below on what you think about this content and what would you like to see more on my channel. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.